Welcome to today's session with Dr. Lisa L. Campbell. Before we dive into today's topic, let's quickly go over a few housekeeping details. Throughout this session, you can send in your questions using the chat feature, and we'll do our best to address them. If you're interested in staying updated on future events, be sure to follow Dr. Campbell on all social media channels using the handle @Dr. Lisa L. Campbell. To contact Dr. Campbell outside of this event, simply scan the QR code that appears on your screen. Without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce our host, Dr. Lisa L. Campbell.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our July 5th, 2023 growth session. As you know, this is a weekly 30-minute session where we focus on growth. If you are interested in joining our private growth community, please make sure that you scan the QR code so that we can provide you with information about that community. I got a couple of announcements that I want to go over, and I am so excited about both of them. So first, my new book, Grow With Me, is available for pre-sale. The physical book will be available August 5th, 2023. How many of you actually have your pre-sale order already in? If that's you, type me in the chat. My other big announcement. Starting next week, July 12th, each and every week until the end of the year, there will be a guest that will join me for our live 30-minute growth sessions. One of the reasons that I wanted to invite guests on, because growth is not just something that I know about. I have worked with so many different professionals that have experienced growth, dealt with the times when growth wasn't happening. And so I want you to just learn from my community. I was reading a book that I just finished today. You probably heard me mention this book a couple of weeks ago, but I was reading this book by Dr. Eric Thomas titled You Owe You. Wow, that's so powerful. In chapter 7, and you're probably like, wow, you remember that? Yes, because it just like hit me like a ton of bricks. Chapter 7 for me was, first of all, the entire book is good, right? But what really started to just resonate with me was the perspective that growth is something that we need to experience daily. And in his book, he quotes, and I quote, if you just spend 1%, just 1% of your time each day, at the end of the year, you will have experienced 365% growth. I said, whoa, I must be an overachiever because I probably spend about 10, 20% of my day growing. And the reason for that, for me personally, if you stop learning, you stop growing. In my new book, Grow With Me, you're going to learn about how I grew over the last 50 years. And guess what? I still got more growing to do. So look out, world. So tonight we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is not necessarily a new concept. I think it's one that we're starting to hear about more and more. But I will tell you that I personally stumbled across emotional intelligence while reading a book for a leadership class that I was teaching. And in fact, the author of the book is Dr. Marita Johns. And so when I read this chapter on emotional intelligence, and of course it had other, chapters on leadership, But when I read this chapter, I said, wow, I finally have pretty much figured out why I've been able to be successful, why I continue to grow. When I took my ACT test for college, my score demonstrated that I wasn't college material. And I know you're thinking, well, don't you have a PhD? Yes. And for a long time, and I'm just kind of, almost tearing up thinking about it, I didn't think that I was smart enough. When I was in third grade, my mom was told that I needed to repeat third grade, but I didn't. And when I start to think about how for years earlier in my life, I thought that you had to have this high IQ score, and that's what made you who you are. And once I figured out that that was not true, I was set free. So I want to walk you through a couple of concepts tonight on emotional intelligence. So, first up, there is a gentleman that I follow, Dr. Daniel Goldman, who is said to be the father of emotional intelligence. And he says emotional intelligence is the ability to identify and manage your own emotions, but also the emotions of others. Now, I have a PhD, and as part of a PhD, you have to do research. So, ever since I started that program back in 2004, I research everything. In fact, it probably drives my husband crazy. So, I also read an article by Psychology Today. They said the same thing. Emotional intelligence, also known as EQ, is the ability to identify and manage your own emotions as well as the emotions of others. So now you probably are wondering, well, what's the difference between EQ or EI, which is emotional intelligence, and an IQ? According to Psychology Today, there's no correlation between EQ and IQ. In fact, what they said was IQ was really about your ability to learn. And when I first read that description, it kind of made me tear up again because I never had my IQ tested. But what if my ACT score said that I didn't have the ability to learn if I would have taken it? I wonder how many people felt the same way. If you felt this same way about a standardized test, IQ score, drop IQ in the chat. I want to see who is with me in this space. And this bothered me so much, guys, because in high school, I wasn't the person who they said was going to be most likely to succeed. I wasn't the person who was presented with all of the opportunities to go to college. That wasn't me. When I was in high school, I was a manager at McDonald's. I thought I was going to own a McDonald's. I went to Hamburger University, and so I thought that was me. That was all that there was to me. But I actually learned that IQ is about your ability to learn. EQ, emotional quotient, or EI, emotional intelligence, is really about a set of skills that you can acquire and keep cultivating. Remember, I said last week that my coach, Ashley, says you should be learning faster than you're growing. Now, when she said that, I was like, yeah, that's me because I'm always learning and I'm always seeing the growth. But here's the deal, you're going to be way up here and are going to be impacted by something that you learned maybe even decades ago. When I think about me as a leader, I am able to successfully navigate the leadership space. Why? Because I have a higher level of emotional intelligence. And I didn't know that, honestly, until I started studying the topic. All right, so we talked about EQ versus EI. Let's continue the conversation. Now, you may be thinking, so what? Big deal. Well, there's this term in marketing, I believe it is, that talks about what's in it for me. It is called a WIFM. What's in it for me? And I decided to put some content up today because I want to make sure that if you're not able to take notes, you can go back and grab this information. So, what's in it for you? Why do you need to improve your emotional intelligence skills? Well, let me share with you why. It is my desire today that you walk away with your 1%. So, relationships. By understanding and managing your own emotions and those of others, you can develop stronger, more fulfilling relationships at home and at work. Emotional intelligence allows you to make balanced, informed decisions by not letting your emotions get the best of you. Let me come back on and just share with you, as I've really been working on me from an emotional perspective, 2 situations tested my emotional intelligence and I failed. In both of these situations, it was in a group setting where I didn't control my emotions. Yes, me. I'm not perfect. I allowed 2 individuals, 2 separate occasions, get this, 6 months apart. When you are trying to grow and get stronger, there's always going to be something or someone that tries to take you out. And in both of these situations, I allowed these 2 individuals to make me act in a way that I do not normally act. 2 separate occasions, December 2022, May 2023. And it happened in group settings, which in my opinion, didn't necessarily make them look bad. It made me look bad. And you heard me mention that I just finished reading this book, You Owe You by Dr. Eric Thomas. As I reflect on those 2 situations, I now realize I have to manage my own emotions better. In both of these situations, I know without a shadow of a doubt that these 2 individuals were intimidated by my strong personality. And instead of me acknowledging that, I just continued to be me. You don't have to always react to how someone else is reacting. And I've learned that, and I'm learning that, and I'm going to continue to make myself aware of that. All right, so let's get back into the WIFM because I want you to find one for you. Professional success. So, as it relates to professional success, emotional intelligence is valued really high in the workplace. It is said that a leader who has high emotional intelligence has teams that are more engaged, and you as an employee, if you are everybody, most people are employees unless you are an entrepreneur. If you have a higher EI, you have better job performance. I read a book a few years ago on high performing teams. Also, EI can improve negotiation skills, conflict resolution. Ooh, that's a topic all by itself, and then team collaboration. Emotional intelligence can also help you improve your mental health. If you understand and manage your own emotions, being your own emotional boss, it can lead to better stress management and overall well being. And my favorite part, it can help with burnout. If you are someone who suffers from burnout from time to time, type burnout in the chat because I know we all can attest to that. If you heard me mention earlier about the rest that I got over the holiday break, it was something that I needed. There were some deadlines that I was supposed to meet, and I made a conscious decision. I choose me. Coach LaShawn Lee, I choose me. You, Dr. Eric Thomas, I chose me over everybody else and everything else. Because when you think about Maslow and the hierarchy of needs, go look that up. You are the most important person for you. All right, let's go to the last ones. Resilience. So I talked about resilience so much, right? Resilience is important in the face of challenges. Emotional intelligence can help you navigate those ups and downs, and they do happen. They happen to me. Self-motivation and achievement. When you have a higher level of emotional intelligence, it generally correlates to a higher level of self-motivation, which then helps you achieve those goals. And then lastly, leaders with a high level of emotional intelligence are said to be more effective, inspiring, more engaging. And so again, I have been in leadership roles since I was in high school. But being a leader doesn't mean that you need to have a title. I think some people are so caught up on titles. I am the president of this and the deputy of this and the director of that. But at the end of the day, the people who you lead, empower, and you transform, can they see it? Your role as a leader is not about you. You should be serving those who you lead so then they can serve the organization that is paying you. Oh, I forgot something else. Coming soon, Growth Motivator Live. And that is where I will be interviewing different professionals from all walks of life in my, what color chairs are these? In my black chairs here. And these will be coming soon. And I just thought about it because we just recorded the first 10 episodes, and one of my guests is going to talk about being a servant leader. All right. So we talked about the WIFM, right? So we got through that. So what else do I want to cover with you tonight? My why. If you look at this slide here, you see that on any given day, I am all of these personalities, I'll say. Wife, mother, grandmother, daughter, aunt, granddaughter, friend, mentor, educator, entrepreneur, volunteer, leader, boss. I'm in a sorority, so I am a soror. I am a neighbor. I am a woman. I want you to take a moment and drop in the chat why you personally need to improve your emotional intelligence. And it could be one of the terms that you see here on my list, or it could be something that I haven't even listed that's your why for improving your emotional intelligence. It could be that you want to get paid more money from your job, right? And so in order to cross that milestone, you got to improve your emotional intelligence. I happen to know that many organizations, when they are taking you through the pre employment process, they actually are giving you either interview questions or some type of survey where they're looking at your emotional intelligence. So it's something to consider. For those of you who are wondering, I wonder if she's going to give us some references today. Oh, you betcha. So that was the other reason why I decided to get together a couple of slides, because I wanted to I had a mission, right? So we could literally talk about this for 8 hours, but we don't have 8 hours. So I see your whys coming in, and I love it, love it, love it. All right, so let's continue. So when you read about emotional intelligence, there is said to be 4 or 5 pillars, right? It depends on who you read. The first time I read about emotional intelligence, they said it was 4. Then I read it again, somebody said it was 5. Then I read it again and somebody said it was 7. And so we're going to go with the 5, which I've actually started talking about. And so you will be happy to actually see them here on the screen. So why do you need to study emotional intelligence? We already covered that. And so now let's take a look at those 5 pillars. Number 1, self-awareness. Woo! This is your ability to recognize and understand your own emotions. Very simply put, you got to be your own emotional boss. You got to be in tune with your emotions. And actually, this ties into the second one, which is self-regulation. So self-aware, so using my example, self-aware of my own emotions. And then the second one is self-regulation, being your own emotional boss. And to me, these two go hand in hand. Okay, so why? Let me get back to this information. So with self-awareness, you are building your self-confidence. You are constantly assessing yourself. You are aware of your emotions. Self-regulation, your own emotional boss. What does that mean? Exercising self-control, adaptability, trustworthiness, innovation. And remember the 2 scenarios that I gave you very briefly. I'm not going to tell you all my business, but in those situations, I did not manage my emotions. I wasn't my own emotional boss. The third area is motivation. And Daniel Goleman says that motivation is not limited to our basic needs and desires. It actually involves our desire to achieve, commit, to be optimistic, to take initiative. And earlier you heard me mention Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So it goes beyond that. Empathy. Now I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest. Out of all the 5 pillars, okay, this is the one that yours truly struggles with the most. And you probably are asking, well, why? Okay. I think about me on the Chicago public bus with a special needs daughter going to work, going to school. I think about the time that she wasn't walking. She didn't walk until she was 7. So if you have been tuning in, you heard me talk about that. I also talk about that in Grow With Me. But the times when I'm having to carry her and getting on the bus and dealing with the stroller and us falling into the snow. I grew up in a time where I went to school full time. I went to school face to face. I worked full time. And for a while, I was on public transportation to and from. So when we talk about empathy, it's your ability to understand others and what they're going through. And then responding to them. I struggle with this, and I struggle with this actually in one area. If I'm teaching a class and that class is online, and someone sends me an email with a laundry list of things as to why they couldn't do their work, I struggle with that because I say, well, why? You're in an online environment, right? You should be able to get this work done. And I'm a work in progress. I had to say to myself, their journey is not your journey. And can I be honest? If I could be honest, type honest in the chat. I often wonder if they're really going through that situation or if they're just saying that to get some sympathy, right? Because that's something that they need. And I struggle with that again because I told you, I went to school on the bus. I went to school face to face. I went to school full time. So I was in class 4 nights a week. And so when someone in an online class tells me, oh, I couldn't do my work for the last 4 weeks, I have to take a step back and I have to just accept whatever their reason is, because at the end of the day, their reason for not doing what they need to do does not impact me. And I had to stop taking it personally. I had to think about the fact that they're them and they're not me. All right. Okay. We don't want to run out of time. So let's keep going. So the last one is social skills. And another way to think about this is relationship management. This is about your ability to interact with others. So what are the 5? They're here for you, so I don't have to repeat them over and over again. And I wanted to give you some references. I am an audiobook fanatic. And so Dr. Daniel Goleman's book on emotional intelligence, I have it on audiobook. I would recommend, if that's something that you're interested in, you can, listen to it. I don't get any credit for mentioning this. I wanted to just give you some references for tonight. There was also a Forbes article that spoke to emotional intelligence, and it was one, I think it was from January of this year. And so these 2 references are references that I would highly recommend. So let me summarize. Emotional intelligence is crucial from a personal and a professional perspective, right? It involves being aware of, understanding, and managing your emotions and the emotion of others. Since I have really delved into this topic, I have seen a change in me. I've seen a change in my relationships. And here's the fact of the matter. Some friendships, partnerships, relationships, situationships, they're for a season and for a reason. And sometimes you got to make a decision that you no longer need that whatever in your life because it's impacting you, which is why you need to be self-aware. And when you see a trend, let me just tell you, if you take a step back and listen and look, you'll learn that there are some things right now that you need to say goodbye to. They're no longer serving you. In fact, they're hurting you. All right, my timekeeper said my time is up. Thank you guys so much. Have a great night, and I'll see you next Wednesday.
We would like to express sincerest appreciation to each one of you for joining us today. If you have any further questions or would like to connect with Dr. Campbell, please take a moment to scan the QR code on your screen. On behalf of Dr. Lisa L. Campbell and the entire team, we want to thank you once again for your participation. We hope you found today's event valuable and wish you a wonderful rest of your day.